Okay. The first thing I wanted to say is that to kind of lead into this whole thing, as people listen to this, it's probably going to be a while, but the world is currently in turmoil, and we know there's a whole bunch of health issues going on. Fuel prices are rising, food shortages are on the horizon. But what if, and that's the whole thing we're talking about today, what if there was a technology that helped people seldom get sick, help the body heal 3 times faster, save 50% on your fuel costs? You could make your own fuel and makes plants grow up to 10 times faster. What if? And just keep that in mind as we continue on this journey today. I grew up on a cattle ranch, decided I'd try to be an inventor. And since I was essentially an automotive technician by that time, I developed these ways of saving fuel. My first pickup truck was a 1966 Ford that got up to 45 miles to the gallon. Now, I didn't realize that was exceptional because I just did it. On the cattle ranch, my dad only allowed us to have 1 tank of fuel per week. So I had to make that tank of fuel last as long as I could. So I did the best I could to fix that up. And I didn't realize how well I'd done until I learned what the truck was actually supposed to be doing. Anyway, I made a fuel saver that, and I won't go into all the ways that I developed it, but it turns out that if you put a slight vacuum on the float bowl of a carburetor, you hold the fuel back. You don't allow it to go into the engine. And I did that as a side effect from another line of research I was doing with getting gasoline to vaporize. It turned out that when you do that, it increases the air bleed systems in the carburetor, the efficiency of the air bleed system. So instead of jetting out droplets, it jets out more of a mist, and the mist evaporates more effectively, and that causes the combustion to be more efficient. In any case, I was getting up to 30% increase in my fuel mileage just by having these $15 worth of parts strapped onto the side of my carburetor. And I decided I would make a fuel saver business out of that. And now this is my first invention. I took it to a company that does these late night things where you can buy these various things. And they were very interested in this fuel saver until they learned that $15 worth of parts in a hardware store would be able to do that. And anyone could bypass them. I didn't have a patent on it or anything. And then they dropped me like a hot potato because they wanted the control. So in any case, I thought to myself for a little bit, and I thought, well, what the heck? Why don't I tell people how to do it and then sell a kit, which I did. And that started my business, Eagle Research. And I've been a self-employed inventor ever since. I personally have built a carburation system that got well over 200 miles to the gallon in a 1974 pickup truck with a 250 cubic inch engine. Usually that one with the 250 would be in the high teens, low 20. But I got 10 times the mileage with a gallon of fuel. And that's just with straight tech. It was not hybrid or anything like that. That's just the carburation system, an advanced vapor carburation system, and the regular engine and drivetrain and everything. If I'd have modified the drivetrain like I did with my original 66 pickup, I could have gotten much, much more. Like 2 or 3 times more than that, like 600 miles to the gallon. I've got a file of 80 different inventors that have been suppressed one way or another. I went to the patent office. I found hundreds of fuel saver patents, hundreds, not one of which was on the market, which come back to what I do is I help the people directly. I don't patent because in a patent office, they actually have this service where you can subscribe, and any patent that comes under a certain category, you get a notice. Well, they put that service in for just this exact reason. Any inventor that goes in and starts to get a patent, all the wolves get this notice, and the wolves know that this inventor hasn't told anybody. Okay, so we continue. As I was doing the fuel savers and other various inventions and stuff, I learned about Brown's gas, and you'll hear a lot more about Brown's gas today. Originally, I heard about Brown's gas with these machines that could make a gas from water that could replace acetylene in a torch. And since I'm an inventor and I learn all different kinds of ways of welding and torch work and stuff like that, I wanted one of those machines which could theoretically weld plastic to titanium in my workshop. And I went out to get a quote, and they quoted me $300,000. So being an inventor and understanding quite a bit about physics and chemistry and things like that, which I excelled in school, as you can imagine, I decided I'd just do the research, everything I could find on Brown's gas, and build my own invention. And I fancy myself as an alternative energy researcher, which means that I make things more efficient or find ways to gather energy from the environment and projects like that, which I have several. In any case, I put my research into this, my thinking into the Brown's gas machine, and the one that I eventually developed for myself. Actually, the development process cost about $250,000. I didn't save a lot, but by the time I had this machine, I had one that could produce gas using half the electricity to produce the same amount of gas with the machine half the size and half the weight of the ones that they had quoted me $300,000 for. So then I started selling those machines, and that well made up for my investment. So I got all my money back from that. And in the process of selling these water torches, I decided to be experimenting with using the Brown's gas for fuel and combustion enhancement. Because carbureted vehicles by that time in the 70s were starting to disappear. They were going all to fuel injection. So I needed a fuel saver that would work on fuel injected vehicles as well. I developed the Hyzor system, which was an onboard electrolyzer to make Brown's gas. And the Brown's gas works great to increase the efficiency of combustion of internal combustion engines, getting at least a 25% fuel mileage gain, and some got much better. I was doing well with the Hyzor systems, and then one of my water torch customers in 1996 got back to me, and what he told me, I simply didn't believe at the time and for years after. He had a melanoma on his forehead, and he took Brown's gas and bubbled it in water, and then soaked a cotton ball and put it on his forehead, taped it there, and re-soaked the cotton ball several times a day. And in 3 weeks, that melanoma was gone. And melanoma is nothing to fool around with. It's bad. And I just didn't believe it. But he told me this, and I thought, okay, I'll put this potential health application out there. And people started to get really excited about health. The people that had the Brown's gas machines, mine and other people's, started to bubble, and I started getting all these reports back for health. Once I put it out there, people started using it and bubbling, and they were drinking the bubbled water, and they were using it on their skin, and they were coming back with all kinds of testimonials that were quite interesting. Well, the thing is, all this time I was telling people not to inhale it because I knew it to be a potentially explosive gas. And I'll get more to that in just a minute. But what happened was they were drinking it, and I knew it to be safe to drink. In fact, even the FDA says it's safe to drink hydrogen-rich water. So and they've been doing hydrogen-rich water for over 40 years, which I discovered and nobody knew about, because all these ionizers, like the Kangen machines and stuff, they were talking as high pH water. The health aspect wasn't the high pH. The health aspect was the hydrogen in the water that it put in the water. The high pH was incidental and had nothing to do with it. When science actually started to measure, they took away the pH and left the hydrogen, and the health benefits remained. They took away the hydrogen and left the pH, and the health benefits disappeared. So it was the hydrogen for 40 years that was making this high pH misinformation. So my story continues that in 2005, I decided to start bubbling the water and drinking it myself, and I've been drinking it ever since. By 2007, I'd had 2 years of not getting sick in the wintertime. Now, I didn't notice any other real health gains or anything like that for this. I still had other health issues that I'll get to in a minute. But the point is, I could see that it was healthful enough to recommend. I always try things myself before I recommend them to my customers. So I made a tabletop electrolyzer that I called the ER50, not to be confused with the AC50 I have now. The ER50 was just a PCV tubings and stuff like that. And eventually I sold a kit for it, and I sold thousands of those machines out there. And then a lot more testimonials started to come in, because it wasn't just a few hundred people with water torches. They actually had these tabletop electrolyzers that they could bubble water in their own home. And then from 2007 until December of 2016, they were asking me, can they inhale the gas? There were lots of people asking, can we inhale the gas? And I kept remembering using this thing in combustion engines and as torch fuel, and how explosive the gas was, and keep saying no. And then I got a video from a customer. Again, my customers have been telling me these things and leading me along all this time. I developed these things, and then my customers tell me how to use it better. So from a Korean hydrogen bar where they were using Brown's gas. People could go in and get a Brown's gas inhalation treatment, like we go in and buy a cup of coffee. You just sit in a comfortable chair and inhale the Brown's gas. If you could see my video, you'd see I can be inhaling the gas with a cannula. It looks like oxygen tubes, like people with an oxygen bottle. And I realized something, slap on the forehead. And what I missed was that if you mix the Brown's gas with enough air, the hydrogen content of the mixture is less than 4.7% and therefore non-explosive. The people in that hydrogen bar were not inhaling an explosive mixture because they were only putting in a small amount of the gas with the large amount that they were inhaling. So every breath inhaled, you'd only be inhaling less than 4% hydrogen. So it was perfectly safe. And as far as toxicity goes, there's no problem with the Brown's gas either, because you could literally breathe the Brown's gas 100%, nothing but Brown's gas, no air at all, and it would be totally non-toxic. Your body would do great because you've got the oxygen-hydrogen mixture that's just fairly similar to the nitrogen-oxygen mixture you normally breathe. We're not inhaling an explosive mixture if you're mixing only a small amount. So it became very important to be able to control that amount for different people, and that's part of what I did with the AquaCure AC50. We'll get to that in a little bit. So I put together one of my ER50s and set it up to inhale. And I started to get better. There were amazing things that started happening to my body. One of the first things I noticed was that my psoriasis, I didn't know I had psoriasis. I thought the thick peeling skin on my knees and elbows and feet was just calluses, because I grew up on a cattle ranch and I had thick calluses back in those days, and that's kind of what it was like. And it started to peel off like a snake skin peeling off, and I couldn't understand why that would be. But underneath was baby smooth skin, brand new skin. And so I kind of went with it. And then I noticed that the neuropathy in my left hand, which I'd almost lost. I had lost the feeling in my palm of my left hand, and it was creeping up into my fingers, and the feeling started to come back in my hands. So, or my left palm, and then I realized once the feeling had gotten back in that hand, that the neuropathies on the fronts of my legs, my shins, both shins from the knees down to my feet, had lost the feeling in the skin. I realized I had full feeling back in my skin. And at about that time, I noticed that my warts were all gone. My hand warts. I had hand warts since I was a child, and I had a plantar's wart on my foot as well. All gone. All the warts gone. I noticed that my scars were gone. This was about 8 months in or so, and I have quite a long list of things that I noticed that the inhalation was helping me with. At that point, I was inhaling maybe a couple of hours each day, and make a note that. The inhalation, the hydrogen is a food. We can get into why it's a food in just a little bit, but it's a food. And when I started to inhale, I inhaled 15 minutes that first time at about 6:30 in the evening, and I didn't sleep that night. I was absolutely awake, not like a coffee buzz where you're kind of buzzing. I was alert, conscious, and awake. Now, I grew up on a cattle ranch. I'm used to sleeping against a rock. I fall asleep any old time I want to. That was very disconcerting to not fall asleep. It's kind of nice now because I inhale when I'm at my computer, and it keeps me nice and alert. But my wife, when she inhaled for about 15 minutes at about 6:30 at night, when she went to bed, she had the best night's sleep she could remember in her life. So what I usually say is for people to start small, like only inhale a few minutes, and then kind of see how it goes, because it's like giving your body nutrition when your body's been starving for it it depends on what happens with your body for a long period of time. And what happens is as your body starts to get used to it, think of it this way. You've been on a starvation diet for a month. You don't start or break your fast with a 7-course meal. You have a little soup. And then as your body gets used to digesting again, then you get more and more and you can eat normally. So think of it kind of like that. I had then told all my thousands of people who had ER50s out there that they could inhale the gas if they did these particular things, modifications. And they started to inhale and get back to me with testimonials. And one particular one came in that floored me. I literally fell on the floor. It was a woman who had lupus symptoms, started to inhale, and the lupus symptoms were entirely gone in 3 weeks' time. And this is why I'm so passionate to help as many people as possible with this technology. I decided I would dedicate my life to doing this. So even though I could retire, even though I could live on a beach and not worry about anything for the rest of this lifetime, which, by the way, has probably been increased by about 30% according to the scientific studies, as long as I'm inhaling the Brown's gas, that the healthful lifespan, I decided to do everything I could to help as many people as possible. One of the things that happened to me is my libido came back. I actually had libido, and this has happened to quite a few other people as well, that was, it was like a teenager again. I came up with the early versions of the AquaCure, and I went and trademarked the name and all those kind of things, because by this time I had a really good idea of what to do to have a business and have trademarked it all over the world. And it's good. The machine is good. And we've continued to improve the AquaCure over time, giving it more functionality and reliability. It comes with a lifetime manufacturer's warranty, because like back on the cattle ranch, whenever anything would break, I'd learn how to fix it better than new, so it wouldn't break, so I wouldn't be fixing it. I'm lazy. I didn't like fixing things all the time. So I built the machines that way. So they're easy to maintain, easy to fix, and they don't break down. They can last for years. So I got a lifetime warranty. And I also, since my own experience was that it took weeks or months for the real health benefits to manifest, I decided, you know what? I'm going to give a 1-year satisfaction guarantee. Everybody who buys an AquaCure, a new AquaCure, gets a 1-year satisfaction guarantee. And so they can return it after a year, after using it for a year, and that has worked really well. I get very few returns. The new design of the AquaCure debuted in 2017, if I remember correctly, at a Tesla convention, and a lot of people knew me then there, and it was good because the very first ones that went out did have some issues, which I was able to resolve with my manufacturer's warranty. So as far as I know, every single one out there is working like it should, and will continue to do so, or we'll get it fixed. Okay, so then people ask me, what is Brown's gas? Like we're talking about this Brown's gas and the things it can do, but what is it? And that's a really good question. Why does Brown's gas differ from hydrogen? See, there's over 1,200, in fact, there might be over 1,500 by now, studies of hydrogen for health, for example, and 100% of them do well. So why not do just pure hydrogen? Why have Brown's gas, which is a hydrogen-oxygen mixture? The reason is because Brown's gas has a third gas that we call electrically expanded water. And electrically expanded water is actually a plasma form of water. It's water that's turned into a gaseous form that is not water vapor or steam. What happens is in the Brown's gas electrolyzer, specifically Brown's gas electrolyzers, because they're designed without a membrane in the middle, an electron bridge forms between the anode and cathode. So on the cathode, the hydrogen forms, the anode, the oxygen forms, and this electron bridge stuffs electrons into water, and the water becomes a gaseous form that comes out of the middle of the fluid. So Brown's gas has hydrogen and oxygen and electrically expanded water. Up till that point, people did not know that this electrically expanded water existed. We were making electrolyzers that were over unity efficiency. In other words, my electrolyzers were making 130% gas if you took the Faraday equations. Michael Faraday pretty much figured out how electrolysis worked back at that point 150 years ago, and had this equation so you could figure out how efficient your electrolyzer was. Well, I was producing 30% more gas than was theoretically possible at 100% efficiency. And so I made some transparent electrolyzers so I could look inside and see what was happening. And I saw this gas bubble, a line of bubbles coming right out of the middle between the anode and cathode that had no connection to the gases that were being produced on the anode and cathode. So I tried to capture this gas or separate this gas. We developed various theories about this gas and eventually figured things out as far as the gas is concerned. I was never able to separate it, but I was able to measure it in various ways so that we could get this electrically expanded water thing going on, and or theories And now we have people testing in various ways on that. So it isn't 130% efficient because we have this extra gas, which is the extra volume that's coming out that has nothing to do with the Faraday equations. It's not electrolysis. It's still water. This is still water. It hasn't split into hydrogen and oxygen, but it has electrons added. Now, these electrons are bioavailable, and that is essential to all the things that Brown's gas can do. If you're talking about combustion enhancement, these electrons increase the efficiency of combustion. If you talk about using a torch to cut steel, the electrons increase the oxidation, which is the cutting of the steel. So you can cut the steel 30% faster with half the gas that the oxygen that the acetylene would be using. So it's incredible. And then for health purposes, these electrons being bioavailable, imagine when people are sick, they've spent their energy reserves. The energy reserves are very low. And you can consider the electrons to be direct energy into the body. So you're essentially giving the body a jump start. Also, the energy generation systems inside your body have become compromised often. So again, you're bypassing all of that and giving the body what it needs to heal. Not only the building block of life, which is the hydrogen, but also the energy to do something with the hydrogen. So we can go back quickly to building blocks. Our bodies are 62% hydrogen by volume. This is really important. Hydrogen by volume, not by weight, but by volume. We're 24% oxygen, 12% carbon, and 2% everything else. So when they're talking about vitamins and minerals, they're talking about the 2%, not the 62%. So your hydrogen is your most essential and nutrient. So it's very important to get all the hydrogen that you need. And most people get their hydrogen from their food. It's called hydrocarbons, most of our food. And by the time the digestive system gets everything prepared, because it takes a lot of energy to pull hydrogen off of a carbon, hydrocarbons, it gets down so that there's bacteria, specialized bacteria in your colon that actually break the hydrogen off of the carbons, and then the hydrogen goes directly into your bloodstream. So your colon actually breathes. This is one of the interesting things I discovered during all of this. However, most people today have decimated those particular bacteria, those specialized bacteria. So other bacteria try to make up the difference, but they're not as good at it. And people become hydrogen deficient. And when you get hydrogen deficiency, then several things start to happen in your body. First, I'll just make a reference to hypothermia. When people are out in the cold and they start to get hypothermia, the body knows to cut off blood flow to the extremities to preserve core temperature. And that is a similar thing that happens when you're getting not enough hydrogen or not enough nutrition of any particular nutrient. So the body starts shutting off non-essential or not immediately life-threatening things. So the first thing it shuts off is the regeneration system. So instead of making healing skin, for example, when you get a cut, it would simply patch it with a scar tissue. And then the next thing that starts to shut off is the various immune systems. And your body has a bunch of immune systems. So if your immune system's shut off, you start to get sick easier. And that's not a good thing. And then finally, if you still don't have enough hydrogen, your organs start to fail and you die. So as I started to inhale, one of the things that happened as my organs are starting to heal was from childhood, I had a heart murmur, which is a weak heart valve. I no longer have a heart murmur. My heart healed. And then as my immune systems got stronger, I actually got rid of the warts. Warts are a virus, and I'd had these warts most of my life. And my immune system got strong enough to get rid of these warts that I'd had most of my life. And then I noticed that my skin had healed, so the scar tissue was gone, which meant that my body's regeneration system, the stem cells, had been reactivated and had gotten rid of those patches, those scars, and actually healed the skin. And there's a lot of different stem cells that are needed to heal skin because you have all the ones that form into nerve cells and other various layers of skin and what have you. Your skin is your largest organ on your body. And I no longer wear glasses or anything like that. And my white hair has turned gray again. And there's a long list of things that regenerated in my body. And it's not just myself. There's a guy who works here. He's kind of my lead technician. And he likes to ride motorcycles. He's an older fellow. And he had been in a motorcycle accident where the road rash had taken off the skin on one arm. And while he's been inhaling the Brown's gas over the last couple of years, the skin has entirely regenerated. And now but it was white. It was white skin instead of a scar tissue. But now even the melanin, I think it's called, the tone in the skin is coming back. He's a native fellow. And so he's got darker skin. And even that is now, the whiteness is even fading away as his dark skin is coming back. It's incredible. I had a 1/2-inch wide, 3-inch long scar on my knee because of a skiing accident, and they had to do surgery to fish out a piece of bone. And back in those days, they actually cut your leg open. I was on a cast and crutches for 6 months, and it was crazy. Nowadays, they do the same surgery. It's day surgery, in and out. They make a little slit. They go in with their thing. It's crazy. But that scar healed. Bodies heal themselves. Given our bodies are amazing. And any good doctor will know that they don't heal the patient. The patient heals themselves. The best a doctor can do is line things up so that the body can heal itself. And anybody who understands that understands the key to healing. You simply have to give the body what it needs. It knows what it needs. It knows how to do what it does. And that comes back to our immune systems and everything. So when the Brown's gas helps, like even with this current scare that's out there, I have lots of testimonials from people. There's even one guy who had a neighbor who had gotten sick. And what they did is they ran a hose from his house over to his neighbor's house, a long hose, because the guy didn't want to give up his own machine and had the neighbor inhale the gas for a period of time every day. And the neighbor got well really quickly. But it was the funny story was that he'd done it with a hose running from his house instead of lending him the machine. Yes. And lots of people, as soon as they do the machine, I've had lots of people then come back and buy multiple machines for all the people in their family because it was so effective in what they're doing. The body needs what it needs. And if it can get this hydrogen, it can really help. Now, it would be ideal if we can get our guts to generate our hydrogen from our food again, but we also have to get rid of the poisons in our environment to do that, like the glyphosate and is a big one, the artificial sweeteners, all these antibiotics. Antibiotics, my goodness, they are a miracle. They're a modern miracle. There's no way a person should not have antibiotics, but the antibiotics kill those bacteria. They kill the good ones as well as the bad ones. So you have a short-term gain. You didn't get to sepsis, but a long-term problem in now you've compromised your immune system because your immune system isn't getting the hydrogen that it needs to keep you from getting sick. The hydrogen helps restore in that it kind of takes the stress off the body is the only way I can think of it. And people start paying attention to what they're eating and perhaps get a better environment, less toxic. But the AquaCure isn't just hydrogen. The AquaCure is Brown's gas, which is hydrogen, oxygen, and the electrically expanded water. So it's good to keep this supplementation going because it gives you something that your microbiome can't give you or doesn't give you, in addition to what it would be giving you. So even if you were getting all the hydrogen you needed, having a little bit extra supplementation doesn't hurt, in my opinion, and in everything that's going on. It's incredibly effective to get the hydrogen or Brown's gas supplementation, which includes the hydrogen and the electrically expanded water.